Hey everyone, this is Neil from neilcollins.de and welcome to another video tip. Today I'm going to talk about something which is going to really help your relationships with Americans or Canadians or Irish or British people. This will help the relationship go very smoothly. Now I learned this the hard way back in 2005 when I was first in Berlin and first teaching. I said to this group, I was teaching at a bank here, and I said to this group, if you have any problems, come to me and let me know. And after 2 or 3 weeks, they came marching into the class and they said, we have a problem. And I'm going to just write down this problem here because I want to use this as an example of what I want to talk about in the video. So they said, we have a problem. Have a problem. We do too much business English. So we do too much business English. It's boring, said another person. And finally they asked me a question, can we do more general English? Can we do more general English? Now obviously because this is a story I'm telling you of a real thing which happened, I'm exaggerating. So, they didn't come into the class like this and they weren't speaking like this, but basically they did say to me, we have a problem, we do too much business English, it's boring, that's not a question, it's boring, and can we do more general English? And this for me was like, whoa, okay, and basically, I changed and I did more general English in the class, and then we had we had a great course, and at the end of the course, because we were on more friendly terms, I decided to tell them, to remind them about this day. And I said to them, remember you told me you came and you told me that you had a problem? Well, I was shocked, and I couldn't believe how direct you were. And they were laughing, and then then I saw them thinking, and one of them said, well, I don't understand, you said to us, if you have a problem, that we should go and tell you, and we told you, so why were you shocked? And basically, I told them, the intercultural lesson I'd learned from that experience was that, well, in Ireland, for example, where I'm from, you don't do this. This is too direct, okay? So what we would do is we would say, first of all, everything's great, I'm quite happy, with the course and with everything you're doing, but, we have a slight problem, or, we have a small issue. So that's the first thing that you can do to be diplomatic. You can basically, have the same message, but make it more diplomatic by saying a small, a slight, and then using a noun. So here you would say a small or a slight plus a noun. So for example, a small problem, or a slight situation, or a small situation, or a good word that you can use instead of saying problem is issue. We have a small issue, or a slight issue. And then, for example, instead of saying we do too much business English, you can make that message a bit more diplomatic, a bit more softer by using words like perhaps or maybe, and it's also quite common to say I think or we think, just to show that it's an opinion and it's not a fact. So So instead of saying we do too much business English, you can say, we think that perhaps, or we think that maybe we do too much business English. The next part of this is really really important. It's not boring. I hope it's not boring, but it's really important. Instead of using a negative adjective, instead of saying it's boring, you can say not very and then the opposite. So a positive adjective. So the opposite of boring is interesting. You can say it's not very interesting. So basically here you're saying not very and a positive adjective. So it's not very interesting. Or, you can say boring, but again, make it a little bit softer and say like a bit boring or a little bit boring. So you can also say it's a little bit boring. Okay? And finally, instead of a question like using can we do more general English, you can make this question a lot more diplomatic by changing can to could. Could we? Could we do more general English? Okay, so they're just some very simple things that you can do. You can keep the message, but just don't be so direct with the message. Because we're very sensitive, and it's not usual for us to be so direct, and it's easier in Ireland or in Britain or the US to be a little bit more diplomatic. I think it's great. This is one of the things I've learned from being in Germany, that I think it's really fantastic to be direct. Things go faster, you always know where you are, and it's a great lesson that I've learned from being here. But I think that if you're doing business in the UK or the US or in Ireland or in Canada, well then you should try, at least at the beginning anyway, until you know the people a little bit better, you should try to be diplomatic and do it in the way that I told you. So change can to could. Instead of using a negative adjective, say not very and a positive adjective, or say a little bit or a bit. And then the negative adjective, and instead of using just saying the message, make it a little bit softer by using words like I think, or we think, perhaps, maybe. And finally, instead of saying it directly like a problem, say a small or a slight and then a noun. A small problem, or even better, a small issue or a slight issue with a noun. Your message will still go across. We understand that it's a problem. We can read between the lines and we can understand the message, but sometimes, we just need it to be given to us in a diplomatic way. So that's my video tip for today. If you like this video, share it, and hit the like button, share it with your friends, or perhaps you could share it with your friends, or maybe you could share it with your friends, or could you please share this video with your friends and hit the like button. Thanks a lot for watching. Hi everyone, if you want to see more video tips like this, just click on these videos here. Go on, do it now.